From the Fatheads Eyewear studio in Indianapolis, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Maybe I need to start in the trash truck business.
Don't rule it out.
But the steering is spokes on the wheel straight ahead. The steering's broken. Bridges takes the wheel and he goes, whoa, whoa.
He's airborne, and then I'm above him.
Inverted.
All at the same time. Yeah, you're just like, wow, that's a wild picture.
He gets behind the race car and he tells me if I'm good or not, and if I'm good, he'll go, perfect.
I hang up on the guy. I go, who's this? This is Deion Sanders. I go, yeah, nice try. See you later.
Bounce and then this insane roll. That thing sent it.
I hate qualifying. It's the worst. It's literally the worst thing you could ever do.
But I'm smooth and creamy like milk chocolate. Have you ever not saw a Hershey bar that did not look good?
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Mario Andretti.
I'm Johnny Rutherford.
I'm Angel Sampe.
I'm Travis Pastrana.
This is Antron Brown.
Hi, I'm Mike Good, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Skinny. This is the Fatheads Eyewear Studio. We're excited to have a good friend in the studio with us here this week. I've been digging for some 6, 7, 8 months, it feels like. I'm Ken Stout, the big man sitting alongside, as always, that is Rico Elmore, of course, the track dude running all the controls. That is Mr. Michael Young, and I can't confuse the names here because we have another Michael inside of the studio. Good friend Mike Good, and you might be asking yourself, who is Mike Good? I think pretty much the entire motorsports industry is probably saying, who the hell is Mike Good, and how did he become the new president of PRI? Yes, the Performance Racing Industry Show, and that is the president that is sitting here in the studio with us. Welcome, my friend. Congratulations. It took a little bit to get you in here. I know you've been drinking through maybe not one fire hose, maybe 3 or 4 fire hoses, but congrats on the gig for starters, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the big show here, and what's coming up here in a few weeks, your big show.
Yeah, a couple months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks, Rico. It's good to be here, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It did take a minute. I've been living on the road.
He's like, just give me a little bit of time. Let me get settled in before I get in there. And then once you do that, there is no settling in. It just continues to pile on, right?
I think I started, late February, and how many texts have you and I had back and forth about trying to connect? And I've been all over God's creation, just out visiting tracks, visiting sanctioning bodies, visiting customers, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
So people might wonder how we became friends, and the fact is we both had the same lawyer. So this one night while we were in the cell.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like that.
That's a whole other show, isn't it?
But yeah, on another network probably. But actually we've been buddies for a long time, the better part of 10 years. And
easily.
The only time we would meet up, we had a mutual friend, and we would see each other at the Colts game. And he would invite us out, and we'd end up at the Colts game. So we got to be buddies there. And then he went to work for a couple of different places, but really Dynamat is where we kind of had a little bit of common ground.
Yep.
And we were actually talking to you a little bit about sponsorship on our side-by-side at that time. And you said, hey man, just hold that thought for a little bit. And a couple of months later, he told me, I'm president of PRI. So it was really cool. And we want to talk about the show for sure. I want you to tell us, because you told me a little bit about the process just to become the president. But let's talk about the show here for starters. We want to let everybody know what the dates are, what it is. I mean, most of the people that are watching this show are probably very familiar with it, but for those that aren't, let's talk about PRI and what we're going to see here this year.
Of course, man. That's the best topic right now. So December 12th, 13th, 14th kicks off. It's going to be electric this year. It's this is the largest show in the state of Indiana. Square footage wise, there's nothing bigger. We take over all of the convention center, all of Lucas Oil Stadium, the connector in between, and all the metrics right now are showing that, we're back to a kind of a pre-COVID level. Trade shows historically, since COVID, they all kind of took a reset, if you will, and kind of been climbing their way back up. And yeah, this is going to be a good one this year. We got a lot of cool things going on, some cool surprises, and got some great speakers. Travis Pastrana, that was announced a few weeks back. He'll be speaking at the breakfast, and couldn't be more excited about it. The city of Indianapolis just embraces PRI. Everyone at the convention center and Visit Indy and IEDC, everyone's been great to work with.
Do you have any idea what your economic impact is? I think you probably do.
I do. Talking to the city about this and asking them, I wanted their numbers, not what we thought it was internally. And the last I was told for last year, 67,000 visitors were in town for the PRI show, and it had an economic impact of around $68 to $69 million in just a couple days. So you figure it's a 3-day show. So even if you extrapolate that out over a full week, it's a pretty good impact, and it's in the month of December in Indianapolis. So it's great.
not like country club weather by any means.
Right. Well, it's great to have that type of impact in the city in their off season, if you will. So we're changing a lot of things up to make sure that we're changing with the times, and we don't want to necessarily be reactive. We want to be proactive in a lot of the initiatives we're working on.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. Innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Skinny. Great to have Mike Good, the president of PRI, in the studio with us here this week. Just got going in segment number 1 to talk about the show and when it's going to happen here in Indianapolis. It is the largest motorsports industry show in the country. Maybe the world, but certainly in our country. So if you get an opportunity, if you're an insider, if you have a business, it's really dedicated to the business owners in the motorsports racing industry. It's not necessarily a public show, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you're spot on. Our, our North Star, really, I'll call it, we want to help the manufacturers that are in there exhibiting at our show grow their businesses. That's any trade show is really trying to help its members grow. And for us, it is an industry only organization. You got to be somehow affiliated in the automotive racing industry to take part in it. But it really, I almost as a tagline say it's connect, protect, and advocate. We want to use that show to connect the industry manufacturers to the sanctioning bodies, to the race teams, and obviously to the customers, the people that are buying their products. And there's no greater venue. It's been doing it since 1988. And, I have the humbling privilege to take over that. I take zero credit for the past, but it's, we're in a good place right now. And I love where we're going from a trajectory standpoint. The trade show world has kind of changed. It's gotten more experiential. You have the social media aspect where people are walking through a show with a camera on a pod and live streaming. And so it's got to have a different vibe to it. So we're changing a lot of things up to make sure that we're changing with the times. And we don't want to necessarily be reactive. We want to be proactive in a lot of the initiatives we're working on. So, yeah, it's fun. It's exciting right now. And this year, so last year, if you remember the show, we had a drift track, like a go-kart track out on Lucas Oil. We've done away with that this year. We're expanding the sim area, which is the sim driving units that you can get in. The technology where those things have come is unbelievable. I mean, it's the sensation of actually feeling like you're in a car is pretty spot on. And, that gets to a big initiative that we have at PRI, which is around the next gen, attracting that next generation into this industry that we're so passionate about. And, so we're working with higher ed. You've got a number of motorsports engineering programs all across the United States. We have one amazing one right here in our backyard with Purdue Motorsports Engineering, which happens to be moving in next door to the PRA headquarters in Speedway into the Delara headquarters.
So is that part of the autonomous thing? Is that saying that right? Or
Purdue has an autonomous program.
Yeah.
But I don't know the affiliation to the.
This is just going to be more racing.
This is the overall motorsports engineering program at Purdue University, which is a phenomenal program. Having met several students that are in there, and what they're learning is, holy smokes! I mean, it's
well, there's been a number of internships that have come out of there, which I'm sure you're very well aware of, right into IndyCar. Working with some of those teams and bright young minds, and they welcome that open-minded, thought process where they're not already taught, you do it this way, do it that way. They come in with fresh, open minds, and everybody embraces it. They just love it.
Yeah. And it's a big deal for us. I think we have a responsibility to continue to grow the industry for generations beyond ours. And, I think working with higher ed, I have 2 kids in college and 1 in high school right now. And I'm like, you can do anything you want. You're limited by your own imagination and the potential is what you set for yourself. So.
Is there some sort of job fair or anything like that kind of thing matching people up right now with your program?
Job fair would be a little strong probably. Yeah. But there's definitely, we work with the college students. They have a heavily discounted rate to come into the show and get to meet people. We don't necessarily advise them to walk around and hand out resumes, but we do want them to understand, both if you think about the corporations that are there, that's their future employers or employees, right? That's the future controller or engineer or race tech or whatever. And so that familiarity and letting them connect those dots and saying, somebody might be into turbos and go talk to Garrett or whatever. So we set it up to where they can navigate the show, but we shy away from it necessarily being a job fair, so to speak.
Do you think that's anything you'd ever?
I think there's elements of that where we could have some breakouts, but
yeah, not show floor type of stuff, but
right.
If somebody's looking for something, I think that's neat. I never.
I mean, right now there are some small things that we are doing to let employers and students connect with one another, but I think it needs to be done on a larger scale. And I think it would be great to have 500 college students sitting in a ballroom and 6 CEOs sitting on stage and somebody, whether it's myself or some MC, just navigating a conversation like this that says, what are you guys thinking about when you're thinking about your future employees? What are you looking for? What are some of the emotional intelligence traits aside from the natural business acumen? Yeah, you got to know how to do the JD, the job description, but what is it you're really looking for? What are the soft skills that are going to help you? That'd be really valuable for a group of college students to hear that from successful industry leaders, I think.
Great thought process, of course, here from Mike Good. The question I'm going to have for him when we come back is, how does one become president of PRI? Stay with us.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good summary. You just hit it, man.
Okay, next.
All right, on from there.
You are looking at the president of the PRI show. That is Mike Good. He has joined us here in the Fatheads Eyewear studio. Welcome, my friend. As we teased them going to break, it was, how do you become president of PRI? Now, I had the pleasure of sitting, maybe it was lunch or dinner, I don't know where it was, and maybe it was your office, but you give me some cliff notes on it, but it is no easy task. You didn't get this gig because you happened to be friends with somebody and, you met and there was an opportunity there. It was a pretty vicious dogfight, and you had to beat out some really, really competent people.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good summary. You just hit it, man.
Okay, next.
All right, on from there.
Season. I don't know. Everything happens for a reason. God's got a plan in all of our lives, I think. And, I got a text from somebody that used to work for me at another place long ago that now works for PRI. And she said, hey, they're looking for a president in Indy to run PRI. And at the time, I was the president CEO of Dynamat. And so I was in a good place. I really wasn't thinking about switching. And one thing led to another, and I had some calls with some of the senior leaders in the organization, and I said, okay, I'll throw my name in the hat, and went through the interview process. And so PRI's parent company is SEMA. SEMA acquired PRI in 2012, and has been evolving it ever since, along with SEMA evolving itself. And they had been looking, I believe, for 14 months for somebody to fill the seat, and went through a daunting interview process with several board members and obviously the C-suite of SEMA, and then had to meet and do cognitive and behavioral testing and meet with an outside firm that had, I don't know if it was a psychologist, but felt like it.
I'm already fired.
and,
I didn't even get to walk in the building.
but I didn't really know anyone going into it. I had met Mike Spagnola, the CEO of SEMA, at the SEMA show last year, where I have been every year with Dynamat, and we didn't know each other. We just by happenstance were sitting next to each other having breakfast in the Westgate Hotel on the Monday morning of SEMA, and I saw his badge kind of peeking out from his sport coat, and I was like, okay, he's somebody with SEMA. And so I introduced myself, and we sat there and talked for an hour, and but we didn't talk at all about this role. We were just talking about life in SEMA, and then that was the Monday before SEMA, and then mid-December I get on a Zoom interview with Mike, and we pop up on each other's screens, and he's like, I know you.
I remember you.
It was a cool story, cool moment. But
how long has he been there in that
I-
position?
in the position, just a few years, 3, 4, something like that.
Yeah, I met him. I believe I met him here at PFI.
Sure. Yeah, he's here every year.
Yeah, nice, super great guy.
Mike's great. I
Yeah.
mean, he's one of the reasons I took the job.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it was interesting when they brought the PRI was originally, I think, started in California with Steve.
Yep.
And they had their thing out there, and then they're like, we really need to be in the Midwest. India tracks them, brings them in. They come here for a long haul. Then Orlando gives them more money. Come down here. They go down there, and it didn't work out that well because this weather that people quote unquote didn't think they wanted to be involved with. Everybody wanted to be in Indianapolis at the end of the day when it all kind of boiled down to it.
yeah, and the reason for the move to Orlando, from Indy to Orlando, was really so Indy could continue to revitalize the convention center. We needed more space than they could offer back then. And so we left. They redid the convention center. We came back, is the easiest way to put it. And then to further that commitment, they went on, and roughly 2.5, it was May, 2.5 years ago, they acquired the building in Speedway right on Main Street, which is now the PRI global headquarters. And amazing facility. You've been there. And,
yeah, it's beautiful.
And it's right in the heart of racing. And
it's dead center on Main Street and Speedway. Delar off to the left, and
right,
obviously all the restaurants there, and
Speedway, a couple hundred
winery,
yards.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful building, and we have a great team there. So we have a PRI team there. We have a PRI team in Southern California out at the SEMA PRI offices. And then we also have the advocacy group out in Washington, D.C., which is doing some phenomenal work. And that's a lot going on in that arena as well. And Karen Bailey Chapman is our senior VP of government affairs. She's got a whole team out there that's just knocking it out of the park and helping navigate the nuances of Washington, D.C., if you will. And to really fight for the consumer and our membership and the industries as a whole, both aftermarket and racing. And it's a lot going on.
Stay with us. We're going to find out a little bit more how he got going. What was Mike Good like when he was younger? Is he a motorsports fan? We'll find out in a moment.
So it all started when I was 10. I got a paper route. No, I'm totally kidding.
There's a nice wide shot of the Fatheads Eyewear Studio. It's an absolutely beautiful place here. Located in Indianapolis, the racing capital of the world. You see those banners every time you go to work there, Mr. Good. We have Mike Good, the president of PRI, with us in the set. And I tease these guys going to break about who you are. How did you get started? You're an Indiana guy for starters. I mean, you live here in this area, but are you a motorsports fan? Have you been a motorsports fan since you were small?
100%. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, northeastern Ohio. My dad was a GM guy, went to GMI, which is now Kettering. And we were always around cars. My mom said I came out of the womb with a Matchbox car in my hand. But I've been around it my whole life and have always been a car nut. And, just like, you guys probably did the same thing. You read every car magazine, you memorize every stat. It just comes to you naturally. And I wish that had been the case for algebra and trigonometry, chemistry. But
they weren't as much fun.
I could spend 6 seconds reading the back of a car and driver or road and track, and it would just stay with me forever. But no, I'd always been around it. And my father and other friends took me to races when I was young, whether it was tractor pulls or whatever else. And then, we moved here in 1984. I was 12 years old, went to the first Indy 500, and now I think I have, 29 of them under my belt, and have just traveled all over for racing and the car community, really. Whether it's a Cars and Coffee or whether it's Indy 500, it's every weekend there's something that an enthusiast can do. And then as far as racing, I dabbled in motocross when I was young, loved that. Funny side note, my parents, before I was born, they lived in Anaheim, California, 5 miles from Disney.
Wow.
And this was in the late 60s, early 70s. And they moved from Anaheim to Youngstown, Ohio. And yeah,
It's a shock.
A little culture shock. Yeah.
Well, you do what you got to do. And then they had me in Youngstown. And as I got older, I'm Gen X. We're the generation of X Games, right? And it was born in Southern California, and it was all motocross and bikes and BMX, and and that's I started out racing BMX bikes and then motorcycles, and loved all that. And I said, if you guys had never left SoCal, I might have been somebody. Like I could have, but as life would have it, it's everything's turned out okay. And spent done some SCCA events and track attack events, and played around in a variety of different auto performance things and off-roading. But every car nut's dream at some point in their youth is to get behind the wheel of a race car and race it. And if you can't do that for a living, I feel like I got the next best thing.
Oh yeah, you definitely have a good gig now. You didn't just get chosen to be PRI because you happen to be in the right place at the right time. You mentioned just briefly about the grueling process to get that, but what were some of the stepping stones, some of the other businesses that you were involved with that got you to the point where you could apply for a job like that? I don't want to go down your entire resume. I'm familiar with some of it, but the last couple of jobs that you had a phenomenal run, certainly at Dynamat.
Yeah. So it all started when I was 10. I got a paper route. No, I'm totally kidding.
And cut.
Right. No, it's I was a man. I started my own company in my late 20s, and it ended up being a medical software firm in Carmel, Indy, and great experience. Learned a ton. I left that to kind of continue to polish my business acumen, and became a management consultant for another local company here in Indy for about 9 years. And then I said, okay, now it's time to kind of make the leap, and really went after kind of senior leadership roles that aligned with my strengths, my sales, marketing, operations, and really team building, and helping come up with a vision, and then putting the team in place to execute that vision, and building a culture around that. And was able to do that through a variety of successful ventures. And, there was a time in my life where, maybe for all of us, where we thought we had 100% control over how your career was going to play out. I'm going to be doing this when I'm this age, and this when I'm this age. No, that's not how it plays out. And so
definitely doesn't.
No. And you never can predict what's going to happen. And COVID had just happened in March of 2020. The world kind of came to a standstill, and I was in a little bit of a like, gosh, how's this going to play out? I was working at the time for Finish Master, and they are a collision and repair organization. And long story short, that all kind of played out, and I ended up getting a call to go to Dynamat, and had a great experience there. And then one thing led to another.
Yeah, Tom, just briefly, we're gonna take another break here, but just briefly talk about the success at Dynamat, because you grew that number by double digits.
Well, Dynamat, Scott Whitaker founded Dynamat in 1989. He was kind of the OG of sound deadening. He invented really the vertical of the industry, and really created what's the verb in the industry. Even if you were using Dynamat's competitors, you say you dynamated your car. That's a pretty powerful. That's the tissue or the Xerox, analogy. But when I got there, it was a little bit of everything was a little bit stale, the product development and the branding, not for any negative reason. It just was time for a refresh. And we kind of repackaged. We went heavy into product development, creating some new products based off of going out into the marketplace and hearing what the customers needed and meeting those customers at their greatest area of need with our solutions. And then we were able to solidify some really cool partnership opportunities with guys like Chris Jacobs and Dave Kindig and, big names in the automotive aftermarket space and on the floor of SEMA for sure. And then able to really partner with some really good distribution channels. And, we had the good fortune of having some amazing distributor partnerships with companies like Summit and Keystone and Crutchfield and these are JEGs. These are big names in our world, right? And so it just is it all really got back down to though listening to the market. You've got to meet people where their needs are, and it's a luxury product. You don't need it for survival. It's something you're doing above and beyond to make your car a better car, or your home, or your boat, or your RV, and that's what it does. But there's a demand for that, and and then I think the last piece on that topic is you can think back to a time we're all old enough to remember life without noise canceling headphones. Those have been in our lives now for 15, 20 years. The outplay of that is that people have become really less tolerant for unwanted noise. We don't really have a whole lot of patience for that.
Right.
And so when you think about that, it takes a company like Dynamat, to really take advantage of that. And, even looking at your studio, you got sound deadening all around this place to properly articulate our voices. So it was a fun ride for sure. But this was, when these guys knock on your door, you answer, and it's been great.
Part of the reason people love to work for him is he's extremely modest. He was extremely successful as well at Dynamat. Stay with us. Is he living a dream? Well, let's find out when we come back.
But even in this role, there's still a side of you that's a 12-year-old when you're at the track, right?
The Skinny is brought to you by American Coach. American Coach, innovation is our life force. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. Rico Elmore sitting right alongside the man that's responsible for the Fatheads Eyewear studio, the track dude, Michael Young. You haven't said a word here today, bud.
Well, we're here. I'm just enjoying the show. Mike's doing a great job, but actually Rico doing a fantastic job today. You're kind of on the down low.
Rico.
Yeah. And you're on the down low. So
nobody was more surprised.
Right. 100%. 100%.
Absolutely love it. I don't know if Michael will be here in the next show or not.
We're hiring
my last show, everybody, we're hiring a new engineer.
hiring a robot to run that thing.
All good. We have Mike Good, the president of PRI, in the studio with us. And whenever we left, I said, is he living a dream? And I've got to ask you, man, because just our interaction, as you said at the top of the show, our text back and forth, you've been extremely busy since you took over the role, and you want to get your name out there, and you want people to know that you're associated with the performance racing industry show. And you have been to some of the coolest places, automotive speaking, wise, in this country. You mentioned Dave Kindig a little bit ago. He's just one of the many. But what comes to mind whenever you talk about the last 6 to 8 months?
Oh my gosh! I got to go to Knoxville, Iowa, to the Sprint Nationals. And then a week later, I was in Bowling Green, Ohio at the Tractor Pull Nationals. Those are awesome events. 45,000 people at the Tractor Pull Nationals. Huge. 5,000 horsepower, 5,000 foot-pounds of torque on a tractor. Yeah, it's crazy. And then the sprints, Kyle Larson was there racing, and, he's made his name all over in every form of racing.
He's done all right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then obviously things like Long Beach and my gosh, it's cloudy. It's all up there, but yeah, it's been a even at IMSA just this past week here at IMS that was.
Did you get a chance to meet John? Did you
That
guys
was
ever
awesome.
get hooked up? John
We're
Goodman?
catching up. We're catching up soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful guy. The Ken Dig deal was that was a special event as well, right?
Oh yeah, that was their 25th anniversary party out in Salt Lake, and got to go out and celebrate that with Dave and his family and all of his team. And he's got a heck of an operation. He's got a really cool thing going on there.
No question. Super, super talented people working for him. How about the Indianapolis 500? I know you said better part of 29 of them, but was it different this year being in the capacity you're in?
You're still a fan, right? At the end of the day. So, it was awesome. It was great. It was great. It was a great race. But I mean, even in this role, there's still a side of you that's a 12-year-old when you're at the track, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
It is something about like PRI, SEMA, definitely those two things because of my car background or love for racing, things like that. There's always something that I walk around the show and I'm like, wow, that's cool. I'm just a total wow factor.
I personally just love the show, and we've had this conversation. SEMA is super cool, and the cars that are out there are second to none. I mean, it's an incredible place, but it is so large, it's so massive, it's overwhelming. If you don't go in with some sort of plan of attack, you could wander aimlessly for months and still not see it all, I feel like. But when you come to the PRI show, you can cruise that show in 3 days at a nice, comfortable pace and see everything.
Yeah, well, you're talking about a difference of over 1 million square feet. So I think, don't quote me on these numbers, but I think we're about 1.2 million, and I think they're at 2.4 or 2.6 million square feet of space in Vegas. And SEMA's sensory overload, all in the best ways. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible. I mean, there's no question about it. And big manufacturer support and involvement, and that's what you want, in that deal. The wheel warehouse, wheel tires and wheels, I mean, that alone is mind-boggling. It just goes on and on and on.
You ever thought about putting like a rail system in? You jump on, jump off.
Yeah. Have you been on the Tesla tunnel in Vegas?
No. Tesla tunnel. No.
So it'll take you, it's underneath the convention center, and it'll take you into hotels all around the city.
Oh, wow. I've not been there in
really.
Yeah.
Man, I bet you it has been almost 10 years since I've been to SEMA.
We leave immediately after the NHRA event that's right before SEMA. And
I'll be at that.
So we usually bug out after that because you've been there,
it's a long weekend.
It's a long weekend. And like our Bernstein with Lucas Oil and all those guys, they stay and put on, are there for days
awards, banquets, that. And then and then you go right there and And that's kicking off right around the 1,000 as well. Baja qualifying and stuff goes on, so it's a crazy busy time. It's super cool.
And the championships in Arizona, then I think the NASCAR championship, right?
Yep,
it's right there too. So
it's you mentioned NHRA. That's been another one. Brad Gerber and those guys have just been awesome, and spent quite a bit of time with Antron Brown and his team, and several of the drivers, and those teams are dialed in.
Oh yeah!
Oh my God!
John Force Racing and that whole crew, unbelievable.
It's
so many
machines.
Those teams are all very impressive.
Want to get the skinny on other guests and different types of motorsports? Check out our YouTube page and get the skinny.
Welcome back to Indianapolis, Indiana, the racing capital of the world. It is the home of the skinny. Also, the home of the skinny is MAVTV. Thank you for joining us here. This is the Fatheads Eyewear Studio. Ken Stout, Rico Elmore, Mike Good, Mike Young. And Indianapolis, we're right down the road from where we used to be. And our good friend Ryan, who helps us out with the editing of this show.
What was that? Where were we?
We were at Speedway. And get ready here, my friend, because this guy's business is from Speedway. So we're going to talk about Speedway, Indiana here just a little bit.
It's about 4 drinks now, Ryan.
Talk to me about the involvement with the city of Speedway and what is your relationship like with PRI there?
It's great. They embrace, but having lived here for 40 some years, I remember when Main Street and Speedway was never a destination outside of the month of May. And look at it now; it's unbelievable. And it resonated with me my first couple weeks on the job. I'm leaving the office. It's 7:00 at night. It's the month of March. It was kind of cool evenings, but you're pulling out of the parking lot and there are people walking their kids in strollers and walking their dogs and riding bikes. And it was just like, I wouldn't have predicted that.
Right.
And all generations are moving there. And heck, you live right across the street from me.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you're, because I see it more now living there. But the interesting side of it is the people that moved away have moved back.
Yeah,
and there is a huge sense of pride in the community. And everybody kind of looks after each other is kind of the way I see it. And which is pretty cool.
And, I think the Speedway, IMS Speedway, embraces the town of Speedway. And they're heavily involved and always it seems to be willing to lend a helping hand on anything. But, all the restaurants you got a bunch of non-corporate, local restaurants, which are unbelievable.
You got Dawson's. You got Founders Grounds. Great coffee place.
Well, Dawson's is just a landmark place, that's been there. Everybody around here, it's what you said. It's that local feel, right?
Tacos
and tequila, O'Reilly's.
Yeah.
And none of it's corporate.
Charlie Brown's, where you could go there for breakfast at any given time, and AJ Foyt could be sitting at the counter, or any sort of race car driver. You just don't know. I mean, there is something there for everybody. There's an ice cream store there where you walk in and you get an ice cream and you cruise the street, and they can look into your front building and they can see a midget sitting there or IndyCar sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
it's got a big TV.
I'm guessing Delara still has.
Oh yeah, they've always got a beautiful display. Right now we have Jeff Gordon's 1990 USAC winning midget sitting in our showroom, and then we have Colton Herta and Brian Herta's winning cars sitting next to each other, which is a really cool. How many times do you ever see a father son cars sitting next to each other? And then we just got a sim put in the.
Oh, that's right. You guys just an IndyCar sim, so an IndyCar tub, that you sit in with the sim.
So you got to fit.
And no, neither am I. There's no hoist over the top of it to get us out if we get in. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, that sim actually, it's a cool story. That belongs to a local gentleman named Russell Cameron, who worked with several IndyCar teams over the years, and he's now since retired. But he built a car with his son, who's 21. His name's Kevin, who's a student at the Purdue Motorsports Engineering program. They built a 73 Firebird with a full Indy car underneath, pushed the engine 28 inches back. This car's unbelievable. And it was on the cover of Hot Rod last 2 months ago. And it was built by a father and son in a garage in Westfield. And they hand fabricated everything. And
they kind of did a little movie on it. I was there whenever you had that.
Yep, there's a documentary on it.
They debuted it, and I took plenty of pictures. I mean, it is a work of art.
Yeah.
Something that him and his entire family, him and his son and his daughter and his wife, I mean, everybody involved at some level. And it's just a wonderful story for sure.
Yeah, his wife's a film director, so she did the documentary. And it's just a really cool, we were sitting here talking about attracting the next gen. And not everyone has a father that wants to go out in the garage and handcraft a 6-figure race car with you. So we've got to be that avenue to let those other, young youth come into this industry that we're so crazy about and passionate about. And, I think that's the commonality of everyone in the PRI show. They have that one thing in common, that we all have a passion for this. And you're not here just for a paycheck or, you're here because you are formed and passionate about motorsports, and it's so cool.
We're going to take another quick break. There's a little caveat to that story that he was just talking about with that car. You always get to experience the highs and lows. We'll touch on that when we come back. The Talladega strike, man.
Yeah, and so I texted her back the picture of a brand new little scooter.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since 04. American Coach. Innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Skinny. You are looking at a graphic there for the PRI, Performance Racing Industry Show, that will happen here in Indianapolis, December 12th, 13th, and 14th. Would love to see you there, certainly if you're in the industry, and if you've not made plans to have a booth, it's probably not too late, but even if you don't have a booth and you're in the industry, make some plans to come here and walk around. I promise you, you will be delighted both with the city and certainly with the show. Hey, I wanted to talk just a little bit about that car that you were just speaking about, because as you had them in the PRI building and the place was full, and like you said, talked about that documentary, but they worked on that car, and they were, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe you were actually helping them try to get it in the trailer, but they were going to take it to the SEMA show and be part of a build group there in a competition. And something happened at the very end where they could not compete. I mean, they thrashed on this car and pushed as hard as they could push, but something happened where I think they could not start it. Maybe the valve cover was incorrect. Something that simple.
No, they yeah, I don't want to throw any brands under the bus. They, slaved away on this car for 2 years, and worked, hundreds of hours every week. It's just the two of them. They had some people helping with certain aspects of it, shaping carbon fiber or whatever. They worked with an engine company. And long story short, so they were supposed to leave Saturday morning before SEMA, trailer the car, drive it out to Vegas, get there Sunday, put it in the booth on Monday. And engine showed, they put the engine in the car. When the engine was, they were sent video of the dyno test of the engine, so it all checked out. But after the engine manufacturer dyno tested the engine, they switched the valve covers, and never fired the engine back up. Sent the engine, they put it in the car the Thursday before SEMA. They're supposed to leave Saturday. Everything was up against the clock. They go to fire it up. Valves, you can imagine what that sounded like if you got the wrong valve covers.
Getting them.
Yeah, like bolts in a blender.
Oh boy.
So they stayed the course. They pulled out of that Battle of the Builders, but they still showed the car and the Vibrant engineering booth in Central Hall, and it was spectacular. And then they had the car running for the PRI show a month later. They got the car back home, made the fix, fired the car up, and there's actually video of it pulling out of the PRI, show and downtown Indy, driving down the streets. That was pretty cool.
But I mean, think about what they did building that car. How many cars were built in a garage in Speedway, Indiana, for that big track?
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that's the crazy.
Yeah.
That's a cool program, because that's something that's something that used to happen a lot that doesn't.
And this car was worthy. This car had a real shot at winning that competition. I mean, they had done all the things correctly, and just one small curveball, and had to be a heartbreaker. But like you said, they rebounded.
Might be
nicely.
back in it this year.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
I want to wrap this up on a light note, because he mentioned before he has 3 kids, and he just made a post. I think it was your daughter that might have scuffed down the side of the car, and she'd said something to you. But I remember seeing the picture. There was a picture of a car, another couple more pictures, and then there was a picture that he posted of a scooter.
So she texted me 2 photos, one 2 minutes after the other. The first one was her car completely raked down the side from where she had brushed the sign. The second post she sent me 2 minutes later was her wearing a sweatshirt that said "favorite daughter," to remind me that I shouldn't kill this person. And so
It's a Talladega strike, man.
yeah, and so I texted her
love
back the picture of a brand new little scooter, the little one that kids ride, on what her Christmas present was going to be. And so we have fun with it. I did buff all that out this weekend and got the
It'll
car.
buff out.
Yeah, it did. It took a little.
She's a lot better than my 2 girls, because they didn't do buffing damage.
Yeah.
They did metal damage.
Well, she's 20, and this is her 4th one. This is the only one that I could buff out. So
Okay, so they get better. Is that what you're trying to say? They get better with
Getting
age?
better.
yeah, the
See?
first one was a
It's
total.
progress.
So yeah, they did get better. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to get us out of here before you dig a hole.
Hey, thank
you're
you
gonna
very
get
much
deeper.
for having me. You guys have a
Oh,
beautiful studio.
awesome.
This was
Thank
an
you, man.
honor
Thank
and
you.
privilege to be here today. And I
No, you're
appreciate it.
extremely busy, man. Thank you for taking the time to
course,
come in.
thank
It's an
you.
absolute pleasure, and best of luck at the show. Obviously,
Thank you.
it'll be your first go round, and we will be there for sure. So
You got it.
Thanks again. Make sure you check it out. PRI, December 12th, 13th, 14th. You'll be able to see this guy. He will be walking around shaking hands. So that's the Skinny on Like Good. We'll see you next week.